I'm Lexi, and I'm in the Alpha Quadrant. And it's that time of year again. It is Star Trek Day. Star Trek Day commemorates the day that the first episode of Star Trek the Original Series first aired on television. But we're not going to talk about the original series today. I know it kind of looks that way from what I'm wearing, but today we're going to visit the cuisine of Deep Space Nine. Yeah, I know it's the wrong uniform. I don't have a Deep Space Nine uniform. I had this one. When I think of the food on Deep Space Nine, the first thing I think of is Ractigino. And if anyone's unfamiliar, that's Klingon coffee. And you see it done a couple of different ways across the series, but everyone seems to like it. Everyone seems to have their own way of doing it, much like Earth coffee, I suppose. But I wanted to take a look at Ractigino. But Ractigino is not the only thing we're going to make today, because I want to eat something too. So the captain of the station in Deep Space Nine is, of course, Ben Sisko, and his son Jake Sisko. And I believe that both of them had mentioned on occasion that they very much enjoy Icoberry tort. I know that they're both seen ordering it from the Replimat. And, you know, I always identified with Jake as a kid when the show was on the air. Maybe it's because he was a writer. The episode The Muse was one of my favorite episodes of the whole series. But let's go inside and try making an Icoberry tort and some Ractigino. So, I've seen a lot of recipes around for Ractiginos, but they're all pretty normal as far as I'm concerned. Just some cinnamon or star anise, things like that. That doesn't feel very Klingon to me. So we're going to make up our own. And what do we know about Klingons? We know that Worf, at least, likes prune juice. So that's a flavor profile that might appeal to Klingons. So we are going to make a prune syrup to put in our Ractigino. I bought some prunes. How do you open these? There we go. And I'm just going to cut these in half so that the centers can give up all their yummy, flavorful goodness. I'm going to do about half the bag. Excuse me, my knife is behind you. Knife. I think in half is plenty, because I do want to be able to strain these out. I don't want pieces of prune in my Ractigino. Just want to be able to get through the skin. Now, if you remember the video I did for National Self-Care Day, where I made the coffee syrups, we're going to follow the same kind of procedure. So into this pot, I'm going to put the prunes. And then I'm going to add in a cup of sugar. And let me go get a cup of water. And a cup of water. And you know what? I think I'll put in some cinnamon too. And just a bit of cinnamon. About like that. And I'm going to put this on the stove to simmer, stirring occasionally, while we work on our other recipe. All right, the first thing we need for our Icoberry tort is 1 stick of butter, which is 113 grams. And we're going to cream that with 150 grams of sugar. This recipe didn't have cup measurements, so we get to break out the scale here. I don't use this very often. Grams. Okay. And what did I say? 150 grams of sugar? I might need more sugar. $159. That's close enough. And that seems to be right about a cup of sugar. You don't want to use the mixer while it's sitting on the scale. So I'm going to cream this together and I'll go ahead and speed that up for you. Alright. Now this bit is a little bit different than any recipe I've ever done before. It says to add the salt and the baking powder next. It wants 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Gonna mix those in. And next goes in the eggs. 2 eggs, 1 at a time. Mixing in between each. Next, we need a little bit of vanilla. I have to believe that even in Star Trek Future, they measure this with their hearts. That looks about right. And then back to the scale for 120 grams of flour. Where did I put the flour? There's the flour. $120. Okay. Now the recipe says to cook this in like a springform cake pan. But I'm gonna do it as cupcakes because those are gonna cook faster and they're gonna cool faster. And we all know how I am with patience. So I'm gonna get that cupcake tin. All right. Cupcake tin. Go ahead and put some liners in these. Now the berries still have to go on the top of this, so I'm only going to fill these about halfway up. And this is a pretty dense batter. I'm gonna get a scraper. I forgot I wanted a spoon to smooth this down. I brought the berries while I was at it. All right. Then the next thing you do is sprinkle some blackberries on top. You can use frozen or canned or fresh, and don't worry, you don't need this many blackberries. These were just all in my fridge, so it was easy enough to bring the whole bowl over here. I'm going with about 4 berries per cupcake. Although if they're kind of small, I might throw in a 5th one. Now this is going to go into a 350-degree oven. That's 180 C. And if it's a full-sized cake, it says to bake it for 40 minutes. But I'm going to check these after 20 and see how they're doing. Oh, almost forgot. Once the blackberries are on top, or the isoberries, just give it a light sprinkle of cinnamon. And sugar. I'll have to get some more sugar, but I'll sprinkle that on top before I pop it in the oven. So I am going to bake these and then let them cool a little bit, and I will see you back at our regularly scheduled location to try these and the ractigino. Oh, the ractigino. I almost forgot. What I'm going to do to finish that up is brew some coffee. But I'm going to make it double the strength that I usually would, because Klingons like their coffee really strong. And then I'm going to add some cream, and I'm going to add some of that syrup that we're making. But if you like coffee, you already know how to make coffee. So you don't need to watch that. I'll see you in a minute. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you about these is you probably want to go ahead and make it in the springform pan, because even though I only filled these halfway, they all overflowed the tin. But that's okay, they're going to taste just fine. The second thing is, if you do choose to do these as cupcakes, they took about 30 minutes in my oven. Now my oven's kind of slow, but it gives you a place to kind of like start gauging if they're done or not. 25 to 30 minutes for cupcake size Icoberry torts. You know what? Let's try the Racticino first. I made this just like I said I was going to, with some milk and some double strong coffee and a couple tablespoons of the prune and cinnamon syrup. That is actually really delicious. Really, really delicious. I might need to make prune syrup for my coffee on a regular basis. I, like most of the crew of Deep Space Nine, am giving a Racticino a 10 out of 10. That is really good. And you know, I think it's going to go perfect with this tort. Let's peel the casing off, because I don't want to eat the paper. It came apart with the paper a little bit, but it'll still taste just fine. The top's a little chewy, the bottom is moist from the blackberries, and the blackberries give it a nice fruity vibe. It is a very good cake or tort, but there's nothing to me that's otherworldly about it. Maybe next time I'll try some lime zest in the batter, or a little bit of yuzu juice, something a little more unusual. I'm trying to decide if there might be a berry that would work better than blackberries. And I don't really think there is. Not if you want to keep with the look of the tort that's in the TV show. You of course could do blueberries. That would give you a similar look, but I don't think it's going to taste any more unusual. So I think you're going to have to visit flavors to infuse into the cake to make it more unusual. So I think some lime zest or some yuzu juice, maybe a pinch of nutmeg. I'm not really sure what else might elevate this to an otherworldly flavor profile. If you've got any ideas, let me know down below. But I am going to go thoroughly enjoy the rest of this Racticino, which I will most definitely be making again, because that is all I have for today. So if you could give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to see me have a Voyager uniform for next year, subscribe so I can monetize the channel and afford to buy another uniform. But that's all I've got. I'll see you next time. Bye!